Taa Wongbe,
Yes.
who's considering running for Senator of Nimba County. And Ta is a managing partner for the Kana Group, and he'll tell us a little bit about what he does with that. He also was a senior advisor on the campaign for former presidential candidate Alexander Cummings. Just a disclosure, Ta's father is was the cousin of my grandfather, who are both from Nimba. Disclosures.
Yeah.
We can get that out of the way. Okay, Ta, thank you for agreeing to this interview, and I just want you to introduce yourself and tell us why are you considering running for Senator of Nimba?
So thank you again, Jeff, for being here. It's good to have you, and thanks for the invite. You know, I'm the CEO for the Kana Group, and that's actually my official title. And one of the things I do here is just to manage the overall affairs of the organization. I started this organization over 10 years ago with a vision to impact communities globally, especially in Africa, through data and through innovation. So we use data as a way to inform policy decisions, and we work a lot with international organizations like the USAID, the EU, UN systems, the World Bank, and others. We have offices here in Liberia, this office. We have an office in Ghana. We also have an office in Nigeria and then the US. But we've worked across Africa. We work across 18 countries in Africa, in the sub-region. This office is one of the biggest offices, if you will. We do a lot of research work here, and we support a lot of programs across Liberia. So that's my role here. In terms of my interest in pursuing the senatorial role for 2020, is focused on how we can be able to move Nimba forward. I really truly believe that Nimba County is blessed, but Nimba County is also cursed because of the leadership roles that we've seen in the county over the years. And I believe that decisions that have been made in terms of the county and how to really support sustainable development in the county, we have not thought about it in a more consistent way and in a more holistic manner. And many of us who are from the private sector, because I've never worked in government, I've been doing a lot in the county. However, I've stayed away from quote-unquote politics until 2017, when I immersed myself into the political campaign of Mr. Alexander B. Cummings. And the reason why I did that was because I felt like Liberia needed a new breed of leadership, and Liberia needed a new sense of direction. While we're not successful, we laid the groundwork for the future. And through my work over the last 10 years in Liberia, specifically over the last 10 years, and in Nimba, I've seen some of the things that have gone wrong. I've seen some of the things that have worked. I've seen some of the people, the players, and a lot of the young people have been coming to me, my people in Gray from Tapeta region. They've been also coming to me, talking to me about this role, and I've been considering it, and I'm doing my consultation, I'm engaging the people, and that's an ongoing process. So I'm really interested in how we can be able to move Nimba forward, and that's my interest.
So that is nice, but are there any specific legislative platforms or any specific things you want to accomplish while you, if you do get this position? What are your specific legislative goals? What do you want to accomplish?
So we have two sets of things that the people look at in terms of how they support people, they support candidates. And the role as a legislator, if you will, the traditional role was actually around lawmaking and being able to do checks and balances with the executive branch. But because of the war, and we have some challenges around the national government providing basic needs for the people started to look at their representatives and the legislators as more of ambassadors for them. So there are two things, right? You have to be a legislator and you have to be an ambassador for the people. So let's talk about, and by the way, some of them are cross-cutting. I believe one of the key things around Nimba County is around agriculture. And that's one of my major focus points. How can we leverage agriculture to support sustainable development in Nimba? Here is what the biggest thing I look at, right? In Nimba, we have a huge population, over 500,000 people in Nimba County. Of that, we have almost 65+% that's youth. We have land. However, we are stuck in this space where we're talking about we don't have roads, we don't have marketplaces, we don't have money to do X, we don't have money to do Y. What I believe is we can leverage what we have. We have the youth, we have the land. I was talking to a guy, right, a good friend of mine from Cote d'Ivoire, and he said to me, Taa, I like your platform, I like what you're doing. And he's a multimillionaire, and he's involved in agriculture. He's a farmer, you know. And I was reflecting, I said, but Liberia is one of the places, Liberia is we're neighbors. And yet we have a place where we have millionaires out of Ivory Coast, out of Cote d'Ivoire. We can do the same right in Nimba County. You know, we have the corridor, Loguato corridor. We could be able to do cocoa there. We have the Buyao corridor around the border between in Liberia and Butuo area. We can do that there. At one point in time, Loguato was actually the second highest port in Liberia because of the cocoa. You know, we have a lot. Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire produce actually around 60% of the world's cocoa, and they've been looking at how they can add value to the cocoa sector. And they're talking. I was in a meeting with some folks, and then the African Development Bank, around billions of dollars they want to invest in terms of adding value to the cocoa. We can be able to provide through Nimba. Nimba is right there with Cote d'Ivoire. We can be able to add value to our cocoa sector to be able to develop people's lives. At the end of the day, development is about putting money in people's pocket and improving their life. And so that's one of my key focus in terms of how we can use agriculture as a mechanism and a vehicle to develop the county and then create funds in all of the districts, the 9 districts. Every district has its own agriculture project, things that we can be able to lift people's lives up and use the money now to build our own roads. We'll create our own fund, if you will, and not be dependent only on government funds.
So, okay, I'm trying to understand a little bit. You want to institute some type of funds for each district for agriculture. You said these funds are not going to come from government?
No, the funds will not come from government.
Where will it come from?
It will come from the projects that we'll be investing in.
Where will the money come from to invest in these projects?
Oh, that's where we leverage the institutional investments. We leverage our relationships with private investors. We leverage our relationships with people in the sub-region. We leverage our relationship right here in Liberia. By the way, you may not be aware, but even LBDI provides funds for certain things. There are people that are doing manufacturing of rubber, smoke sheets, different type of agriculture projects happening. Rubber smoke sheets right now, Thailand is the biggest provider of that globally, and it creates a lot of jobs right here. And LBDI is funding different activities and also private investors. These are things that I believe that we can be able to do from a Nimba standpoint.
So, as a lawmaker, you will lobby with international institutions, private institutions, to be able to come and invest in these projects.
And something I've done already in terms of agriculture, right? In Nimba, $1.4 million agriculture project supporting women, not only in Nimba but in Born as well. I love it, and the project came in.
Who brought the money in? What was
it? It's a women's group that supports women, especially women that are disadvantaged, and so they support the women agriculture projects.
What's the name of the project?
Right now, it's still in design phases, so they don't have a name yet. But it's a group out of Canada and the U.S. that's supporting women empowerment. It's called
What are the names of the
WE,
groups?
Women Empowered.
Women empowered?
Yeah, Women Empowered.
Women empowered.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so as senator in the future, you would do more of this lobbying to get groups come in. Are there any laws, any specific laws that you think need to be passed to kind of create this type of environment that you're looking for? Also, I'm curious about some of the challenges that agriculture faces in Nimba, the major one being, the road network. How will you be able to help the county get over that to get to this dream that you envision?
So, two questions there. One, we need an enabling environment, and we'll work with the national government to ensure that we have an enabling environment. We just have to do that. That's very important. This is why I'll push legislatures that we can actually be able to create those environments, incentives, tax incentives, tariffs, certain level of not even concession, but certain level of certain policies in terms of price, transparency, and all of these things that we can be able to support the enabling environment that we need. The other thing that I believe that's important, and by the way, I'm focused on private sector because why private sector creates job. That's why I'm focused on this. Private sector creates job. Government is not a job creator. Government creates the environment for the private sector to then come in and create jobs. So that's my focus. And I've been in the private sector for all my life. I know how to create jobs. I've been creating jobs for years, 10 years here in Liberia and all across Africa. So I understand how to create jobs. I understand how to build businesses. And that will be my focus. The other thing about, you talk about what we can do to look at some of those challenges. What am I doing in Nimba, for example? We know the trouble spots, Jefferson, is there. We know the trouble spots every single year, the challenges in terms of road network. We know the trouble spots. Rainy season, we know the trouble spots. We identify some of those trouble spots. We're trying to work through to fix some of them so that we don't have challenges, huge challenges during the rainy season, so that we can fix the trouble spots. But the national government is already paving, the funds have been provided to already pave some of the roads. It's just taking a long time and those things will happen. This is why I said, let's focus near borders. If we focus near borders, it will be easier. For example, the Tapeta way to go get to Grand Juda, there we have the Butor side, we have the Lobato side. And then we have the Ganta side. So we have a lot of different entry points. And then we have the Yekipa side. So we have different sides to really do exporting of those commodities we're talking about, or maybe even consumption of those commodities. Right now we have a situation where I was telling some folks years ago, I planted plantain. I planted about over 20,000 plantain trees. And under the plantain, we planted some peppers and stuff like that. We sold each of those plantain bunches for about $1 or something. And we saw revenue. So there are so many things we can be able to do when it comes to agriculture, and we can put people to work. We can get funds. Imagine 20,000 plantain trees, and you're selling each bunch for even maybe $1. And the plantain trees, they actually produce sometimes 3 bunches. Do you know that in 2016, in Liberia had shortage of plantain because of Cote d'Ivoire? That's one of the biggest means of eating starch. So we have the ability to actually export our plantains. In Nigeria imports, I think, almost $500 million in palm oil imports. So there are markets right here in the sub-region that we can be able to have access to. The African Development Bank said that within the next 10 years, agricultural products will reach almost $1 trillion, actually over $1 trillion. So we have the opportunity. We have land and we have the young people. policy decisions to be able to tap into those markets will be the key, and that's one of the things I'm focused on.
Okay. Moving on to issues of that pertain to the legislature. One of the things that really annoy Liberians is, the excessive salaries that lawmakers currently make. It's in terms of salaries and benefits, everything comes up to about $17K a month, US dollars. What do you think is a reasonable salary for a lawmaker?
I've not actually thought about it in terms of quote unquote reasonable salary, but what I've told the people of Nimba is this: money is not what we're doing this for. Specifically me personally, because God's blessed me. I'm okay. But I believe that the money that's coming will be for the Nimba people, and this is why I said initially that whatever money that's going to be coming in, $10,000 a month, going to be going back to the people of Nimba. I don't know what it is, by the way, in terms of how much we. I think someone said 20,000, someone said 30,000, someone said 17,000, someone said 15,000. I don't know what the number is, but I know it's above 10,000. But I'm saying that 10,000 will be used towards investing in Nimba County every single month, and that's what I'm going to do. In terms of lowering that, I'm not sure I will be able to push that. If we can push it, I will push it. Any bill that comes up in terms of lowering salaries, I will definitely support it.
But what do you think is a reasonable salary for a lawmaker of a country like Liberia?
Liberia, we need to lower it, period. I do believe so.
To what?
I think right now, if we 50%, we'll be fine. If you're saying it is 17,
regardless of what I said, what do you think is a good number that?
I don't know what lawmakers make, by the way.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. What do you think is a good number that they should?
I think $5,000 per month is good. Okay. Yeah, I really do believe so. $5,000 per month is very good for a lawmaker. That's about 5,000. That's 60K. Will be very good. Now, the other thing is this: there are other benefits every single year, like education benefits, like agricultural benefits, and all of these things. So, from a salary standpoint, take home $5,000 per month is.
Do you think those other benefits should be there too, like?
If they're using, I'm not sure. I'm talking about agricultural benefits, the education benefits. I think those benefits are good if they're using it for the people in the right way.
But why should it come personally? Why should it be something that they personally control? Regardless of whether they're using it on their people.
I think the caucus controls it, and they use it on the constituents.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If it's used for their constituents, I think it's a good thing. If it's not being used, then we'll have to look at that as well.
Okay. The other thing that a lot of Liberians have issues with in terms of some of the benefits of being in the legislature is those senators have like 9-year terms. Mm-hmm. What's your opinion on?
I do feel it's too long. I feel it should be 6 years. Period.
It should be 6 years.
Yeah. Period. It should be in alignment with everything else. It should be 6 years.
Okay. And what would you? I mean, is this something you would push for?
I will absolutely push for that. I've spoken with a number of legislators around this. I do believe that we need to we need to get rid of this 9 years thing. It's just too much. I was in Goman Play, and this young guy, he came to me and he said, in 2011, he's 20 now. He's 20 right now, and he said to me, in 2011, he didn't vote for himself. He didn't vote because he was young, and he said that the decision people made for him got him to where he is because he's not going to school, and he graduated from high school, but he's not going to school. He's just sitting there, and he said, "I'm going to support you. Now I'm of age to support. I'm going to support you." He said, "So I can own my own future, so that my little brother cannot have that situation happen to him." And for me, that's a story that resonates with me in terms of the timeline, in terms of how are we going to be supporting people or from that. It's just too long. I'm sorry, it's just too long. It's a long time. If we had the presidency at 4 years, I would definitely say let's actually have a 4-year term for senators as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, more on issues within the legislature. We have, I'm sure you were following this recent issue with the impeachment
Yes.
of the judge. One of the most notable things there is that they voted in secret.
Yeah.
And, you know, with the legislature, it's notorious for a lack of transparency. I was just, wondering, so let me just kind of go over a little bit of some of the transparency issues. So they have systems there that NGOs have installed that can allow them to be able to vote electronically, and it will record who's voting for what issue. That's not being used. When laws are proposed, we have draft bills. The public never gets to see, it's not uploaded anywhere where we get to see the copies. It's not made available in the library promptly. Usually it's only made available in the library after everything passes. And even when bills have become law, we don't get to see a copy of it until like several months later. So like the local government act, I still have not seen what's in that, and it's been passed. We still have mayors that are still serving. I don't know what exactly it's in it. And I went to the library there, and they said we don't have it yet. It has to.
I have the draft here if you.
No, I have the draft, but I don't know what was passed.
Yeah.
And it matters what was passed.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So there's just so many issues with transparency there. I'm just wondering, what will you do to ensure that there's better transparency for the work that you do while you're there, if you are successful, and so that the Liberian people and your constituents can get to benefit from, to have better knowledge?
When I'm successful.
Yeah.
When I'm successful. So here's the thing though. There is this program that's called PASI. Years ago, they used to take kids from the inner city and send them to Harvard, Yale, and other things, right? They will send them to these schools. And the top kids from the inner city, they realized that when they took those kids to top schools, they were not performing. They did excellent in their community, but when they went to school, they were not doing well. And they asked the kids, like, what's going on? What's going on? The kids go, well, I don't have my Pepsi with me. Like, I don't have my I feel like my friends are not here. My friends that I roll with, they're not here. And they led them to change the program to create a community around them. And what I've seen in Jefferson is that people succeed when they're surrounded with other people, like-minded people that could inspire some level of excellence. And that's what will be my focus. Trying to bring people on or work with existing people so that we can be able to change the system. It will not be done overnight. This thing has been going on for a very long time. Transparency is an issue, and it speaks to integrity, it speaks to a lot of things. One of my core values, if you work in the office, you saw some of the core values there. It's about integrity, it's about transparency, teamwork. So we have to work with the existing people to say, listen, let's try and make these things transparent. But in the event, you have to create that environment where you speak to other people and tell them, listen, let's work through a newer system. Let's make this thing transparent. Let's allow the Liberian people to trust us, to know that we are not doing anything wrong. We're not doing anything bad. Let's bring more transparency into the system. We can't change anything overnight, Jefferson. Let's be clear about it. But we can be able to create, a caucus, a transparency caucus that can build push. And the sooner we have other people coming on, the better it will be, in my mind.
But there must be some specific steps that you yourself could take.
Of course.
What would that be?
I mean, we can put bills, through. We can, help to change policy. But I think more importantly, you can put bills all you want. If the people decide that they want to step on it, they will step on it.
I guess what I'm looking for is, I'm just curious, because some of the issues is not knowing enough what our lawmakers are doing. And not being able to have like a record, a trail to be able to track their action. I'm just wondering, like, would you establish a website that, where you put forth all bills that come to you that you're deliberating on?
Oh, by the way, just to let you know, FYI, I'm gonna do that anyway. No, that doesn't change how people vote, though. That doesn't change how people vote. I'm going to do that anyway. I'm going to make sure that that's done anyway. As we speak, my website has been developed. Okay. That is going to be, I'm going to be putting out information consistently all the time. That's not the issue. The issue is we need to also take a step further so that not only Taa is doing it, but a lot of other people are doing it. So that's the community I'm trying to talk about in terms of it. That,
no, but I'm interviewing Taa here, so that's why
I'm telling
what Taa will be.
No, but that is, I will be definitely sharing those bills. So but more importantly,
we should
when I'm successful, you will see, I can assure you will see bills being pushed out, information being pushed out, but more importantly, I believe that community to change the system is what I believe that's the bigger thing. And I can push out bills all the time, but you're still not going to know who voted for what. But if we have about 10 people, 12 people that are saying that, I'm going to make my vote public. That's what happened in the associated justice case. Some people made their votes public to show that they voted against.
Okay. So I want to move on to issues pertaining specific to Nimba now. So your father is a respected elder statesman.
My late father.
Your late father, yes. And your mother is from Lofa.
Yes.
And your late father is from Nimba. Why did you decide to become involved with Nimba instead of Lofa? And was that a difficult choice for you?
It's not a difficult choice. It's not a choice between one county versus the other county, Jefferson. I do a lot of things in Lofa right now. I do. I've done scholarships. I've supported people, investing in agriculture projects and all of these things. My little brother, who I'm very proud of as well, he's doing agriculture in Lofa as well. And we supporting those initiatives. It's not a choice between Lofa and Nimba. My father had this innate passion for Nimba, and he put that in me. And I spent, in fact, when I was during the war, I ran away at one point in time. My family couldn't see me. I used to sell kerosene. I used to sell coal. I used to sell, and I went to Nimba. That's where I was. I used to go through the border, bringing in cigarettes, bringing dry goods and stuff like that. That's what I did. And I had this innate passion for Nimba County. And in both counties, I do things in both counties. My late father, always told me that, no matter where you go, Taa, you can be whoever you want to be in the U.S. and globally. There is nowhere better than home. And I felt at home in Nimba County. In fact, I don't spend most of my time, I've never really spent most of my time in Monrovia these days. I'm always in the county. And even before then, I'm always in the county. A lot of people will say, people who really know me, they'll say, I can't say anything without saying, Nimba, Nimba, because I have the raw passion for Nimba County. And not only people of Nimba, but Liberia as a whole. I'm passionate about Liberia. And this is why I feel like mine first representation in terms of how I can be able to inspire change is through Nimba County, and then I can work with other people in other counties to be able to bring about change. So it's never about picking between the two counties.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the people in Nimba are quite traditional. And they're very tied to their language. Do you speak any of the local languages there?
I understand Ngio. I speak a little bit of it, not a lot, but I understand it well. And it's something that it's something that when I was born in Nimba, but the coup came and we had to leave. So I didn't have the chance to spend my formative years in my way you can really be able to learn the language. Unfortunately.
You found some Opa to teach you.
let me tell you, the Opa they teach me already. Don't worry about it.
Okay. So Nimba is quite a diverse county. Mm-hmm. On the surface, it looks like a county of two major tribes, the Ma and the Da. Mm-hmm. And they seem to be quite so interwoven and so united to outsiders. But Nimba is quite divided when you peel away. There's a call for the county to be split right now. A lot of people in Lower Nimba feel like the other half of the county isn't really paying much attention to them. There's also been like some comments by public officials that try to divide the Ma and the Dan people. Mm-hmm. I just want to know what's your understanding of the challenges to for United Nimba, and what do you plan on doing to ensure that Nimba remains united and gets stronger?
Just yesterday, I posted a picture right in this. I took a picture right in this office and I posted it. It said one Nimba, and that's what I believe in. I believe in one Nimba, a strong Nimba, or united Nimba. And let's be clear about that. I don't believe in a divided Nimba. I believe that we've always find a way to separate ourselves. Jefferson, we always find a way. If it's not the Nimba, the Da and the Ma, it is the Crown, it's the Mandingo, the Muslims, it is the people from B area. We're always finding a little way. I can guarantee you, Jefferson, I put 10 people in the building, in the room. I put 10 people in the room. They'll find a way to be divided into groups. Period. That's human nature. That's just human nature. But we need to focus on what we can do as one county to ensure that everyone benefits from the development we have in Nimba County. And that will be my focus. Ensuring one Nimba, but more importantly, that people benefit. People have to benefit from the development we want to bring into Nimba. Now, here's the thing though. There will always be distractions. We should be aware of that. There will always be distractions. And I believe, sincerely, that we're not going to change things overnight. Years ago, my late father used to, he was a writer, and he used to write about Nimba. One of the stories he wrote, poems, was Nimba on the Swinging Bridge. Even in the 1960s, there were called, before I was born, there was call for a divided Nimba. And guess what? we're still here. Nimba is still strong. Nimba is still together. We just need to keep most of the folks who do believe in this quote unquote stronger Nimba together, so we can be able to continue to push the message to our people.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Mandingo a little bit. There's been some issues with them, especially around the Ganta area, land conflicts with other tribes in that area. What is your understanding of the land issues that in Nimba, and what do you think? How do you think that can be resolved?
You know, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but most of our conflicts we have globally from the Bible days come from land. Most of them. It's all about land acquisition or someone's taking the land. Period. It's always been about that. My father used to tell me, he used to say, "Taa, that's one thing God is not making any more of, is land." So understand that, invest in it, and protect it. I believe that Nimba had, two tribes, if you will, originally. But we had a migration of people that came in, and people bought some land. And we from Nimba were very welcoming to strangers, whatsoever. Now we're in an area where we are a united country. For example, I can go to Grand Cru, or Nimba man can go to Grand Cru and buy land there, and own land there. And I don't think somebody would say, "Oh, this is not your land," if I bought it, quote unquote, in the right manner.
Okay.
I think the national government has a role to play in this conflict, in these challenges. I think the national government, through Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, it has some interventions, but those things were not implemented right. I think there needs to be another way for us to bring everybody together, to talk about the land conflict, to talk about how we can resolve this once and for all. I don't have all the answers, but I do know that there needs to be conversation. We need to have a conversation around how we can be able to, for everyone to sit around the table to talk about how we can resolve this. Because if we're done, this could turn bad, and that's a huge challenge. I was just in the county, and some people called me to talk to me about this land issue. And I told them that one of my first things I will do, because I know most conflicts came about because of land, one of my first things I will do as a senator is to call a forum together with all of the caucus people, the elders, and the parties involved, so we can have a conversation. And then we will come into the point where all the stakeholders, before we bring it to the national government to say, this is the solution. Because if we don't dialogue, Jefferson, I fear that there will be some major challenges, and we need to dialogue. And that's my focus. How can we be able to resolve this? And right now, people are not talking. They're not talking, they're not communicating. So no one is championing a way for us to create a solution to that. I think there needs to be more that we can do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. In terms of creating solutions, at the Nimba community, the Nimba County Community College, it's a place that you've spoken probably several times at commencement ceremonies. The college is at a point right now where a lot of politicians are proposing that they should make it a full university. But as you may know from recent past, they can barely pay some of their staff. What do you think is the way forward, and how do you think we can get there?
So, I must say to you, that college is one of the places I view as there was so much innovation there through Dr. Gono. I don't know the current president well, but I do know the past president, Dr. Gono, a mother of mine. She did extremely well. Jefferson, every time I went on that campus, there was something new happening. Every time I went on that campus, there was something new happening. She would go and advocate, and I will support the advocacy as well. I've been supporting students at that place since 2014. As recent as 3 weeks ago, we provided, I believe, over about maybe $596 or so to support students at the college. So this is something I've been doing all the time. I've been going there. So I'm really, really passionate about Nimba County Community College. We do need a 4-year college in Nimba. I do believe so. With the population of people we have, we need that. We need to invest in the bigger picture is we need to invest in education. Period. Education changes everything. I do really believe that we need to invest in education, and that's on the national level. So we need to lobby. But it goes back to the things I was saying, the things I mentioned. We have a development budget for the county. It's very small. We need to grow that pie. We need to grow that budget. And how we grow that budget? If we keep depending on the national budget, how we grow it? We need some innovation. And that's one of the things I've been talking about. And before Dr. Bono left, how can we partner with existing universities so they can send teachers to train our teachers there, so we can have quality in terms of education? Not just about expanding it to a 4-year, because you expand to a 4-year and not have quality in the education, the system is just going to be just as bad. So for me, it's not just about expansion, but expansion in terms of the quality in education, expansion in terms of how we're going to pay our teachers, expansion in terms of the actual physical buildings, if you will, the expansion in terms of making sure that we can be able to meet the obligation to the students. Those are the key things for me that I'm worried about. And Dr. Gono had always good ways to go out there and lobby and advocate with the international community. She used to always do that. And I think that's what we can do. We don't always have to depend, if you will, on the central government. Central government in terms of the policies, yes. In terms of making sure they come and assess the readiness of the institution to gain a higher, 4-year university status, yes. But more than that, the leadership within the institution needs to look at how we can be able to leverage other resources outside. But what are we thinking about in terms of long term? And that's what I believe Dr. Gono was doing. I believe that we need to visit some of those conversations, because we can talk about expansion all we want, but if the quality is not good, we'll have challenges. So that's one of the things. And I plan to visit it was 2 weeks ago we did that donation, about 2 weeks ago. I plan to go back there to meet with the new administration, new leadership, to talk to them about what the goals are. Clearly what the goals are. Because that college, I'm very passionate about. I'm extremely passionate about that college. So many students go to that college. So many students. I run into them all the time across the county. Yeah.
You mentioned a little bit as you're talking about the community college, the issues and challenges we have with the county development funds. We generally, a lot of counties don't get their money on time because the government is always spends, they don't have enough funds to transfer to the counties. And then even for Nimba, even in the past when we have gotten the funds, there hasn't been a lot of dividends that's come out of, being able to get effective development accomplished. How do you plan to address these issues? Number one, being able to access our funds on time, and then also ensuring that the funds are used properly.
Jefferson, I will not solve all the issues. We'll prioritize.
We can try.
But we can try. But I'll not solve all the issues. But what I will tell you is this, though. We'll look at means that we can have things under our control. This is why I keep going back to leveraging other other areas that we can have control over, and that's that fund I'm talking about. Because we may not be able to change the system. We can push, we can lobby, we can push, but if we have control with our funds, and how much comes to the county? I think about 250,000.
In addition to the social.
Yeah, I'm not talking about social. Yeah.
No, but that's extremely important.
Yeah.
That goes the same way too.
Yeah.
It doesn't come to the county. Like
Yeah, but
1 point something.
yeah, 1 point something. But the 2.5 at 2.50, I mean 250 plus the social development funds. If you calculate it, divide that by how much comes? It's going to be like what? Not even $1. I think maybe let's say $2 per person or $1 or so per person, and that's nothing in terms of development. That's really, really nothing. You can create a project, an investment that you can be able to yield $2-3 million from one district that can be able to invest in roads for that district. You can do that. I think we're thinking too narrow in terms of where we get the money from. I think we're thinking too narrow. We need to be broad in terms of our thinking, our innovation. And I really do believe so. Because we can keep thinking about government. Government is not right now expanding the national budget. We don't have expansion. In fact, it's contracting with the national budget. So we need to be thinking about ways to create value, to expand our budget. And how we do that is through private sector investments.
But even if you do have that, the way...
And by the way, let me say this though. I do believe that Nimba is one county that actually use a lot of their money responsibly. I want to say that.
Okay. So even if you do have the change in we have these private sector investments that we're trying to benefit from. Even when we get there, we will still, the way Liberia is structured right now, everything is very centralized. Taxes that come out of there, they're going to, most of the funds generated through taxes and whatever will come to the central government, and the Nimba people will not benefit a lot from that. So it comes a lot to like the whole, unless you have some type of, I'm not sure exactly what structure you plan on having.
Yeah, so it's not going to be a government structure. It's going to be private investment, public-private partnership with the administrative district. And we're going to create a way that the district actually owns, shares in there. The district actually is going to be their project. We're going to create an environment where there's very clear transparency in terms of the funds, and also what are the priority areas we're going to invest in. So imagine you have a project that is maybe yielding about, let's say in one district, $250,000 annually. You pay your taxes and everything else, you get your $250,000. Let's just say that. That $250,000 goes directly to that district. The $250,000 in terms of profits, if you will, you can now invest that money directly into key areas. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about government owning anything and controlling anything.
So out of curiosity, do local governments have the legal authority to enter into those agreements right now?
Local government with the new structures, local government and towns could be able, or private land can come and sell communities.
I'm curious whether they're legally empowered to enter those type of agreements right now.
They will have to go through the central government, but the way how it works is you can create a community of interest, people that are interested in this outside of quote unquote government, there's a private and public sector project. What does that mean? Some of the land that's going to be provided could be land from individuals in that town, or maybe the town-owned land. Those are things that we can be able to do, and those are ways. By the way, I've seen this done in Kenya. I've seen this done in Rwanda. I've seen this done in Uganda. I've seen it done even in Ghana, where an entire town is transformed through agriculture, through cocoa, through shea butter, shea nut. I've seen that done.
Okay. No, you just got a little excited over shea butter. But
I mean, I've seen this thing done. I've seen it done. And the thing is, listen, I have a track record here in terms of building business. I understand this stuff. This is why I believe the private sector is the way to go. I believe the private sector is the way to, and why we're planting these things and they're growing, we're creating jobs. We're creating jobs. We can create at the least 50,000 jobs per district through agriculture. 50,000 jobs at the least.
we have this current situation where we have, President George Weah and some senior members of his administration. We aren't quite sure where their personal wealth ends and where the country's public wealth starts. And there's concern that that our resources are being exploited. So I have several questions along that line for you. Like, will you publicly, openly declare your assets, and when?
I will declare my assets. When I am filing with the NEC, I will declare my assets.
So we'll be watching when we know you file.
Yeah. I mean, it's legal. You have to prepare your document and file it with the NEC.
They don't open it up though.
It used to be placed online. We give it to NEC. It's online. NEC posts it online. In fact, Madam Sirleaf and others used to put.
She did.
It used to be there.
Okay.
Yeah. And Mr. Cummings filed his. Yeah.
Okay. So additionally, you have you run a company in this country.
Yeah.
How will we, know where your financial ties are, and how can we be sure that your company will not benefit properly from you being in power when you get into it?
Thank you. When I get so let me share with you something. I've been in business for over 10 years. I've now worked. One contract has not come in from government, and we're going to stay that way. Period. We have never, not one contract has been signed with government, and we don't even go after government contracts these days.
Yes, you may not have contracts with government, but there's a potential that maybe somebody who invested in the Kana Group.
Kana Group is mainly owned by myself and partners.
Or maybe one of your large clients. Maybe there might be favors you provide for that client later on when you're.
All of my work I do is competitive bidding. Everything I do is competitive bidding. We don't do anything that is not. I work with international development community, and you have worked with them. Everything is competitive bidding, and we're very competitive. I can assure you.
So you haven't done work for private companies or individuals before?
We've done work for private companies, and we have worked for individuals before, private companies, and those private companies. I mean, they're like banks, maybe banks and others. But again, it's competitive bidding.
So you guys, I'm just basically wondering whether the public would have access to be able to see the connections that the Kana Group has had with people in the past, just to know whether
my client list and stuff. I mean, we're a private company, but we can provide a client list. I mean, there's nothing we hide here. We can provide client list. In fact, some of them are even on brochures that we have. We have some of our clients, on brochures. We have them on the website and things like that. So when there are situations though where there's a client that we sign non-disclosure with in terms of they want a very private work done, that's different. Okay. We don't disclose that information, but 99% of our clients, we can definitely do that.
Which client did that one for?
Clients, by the way, not just clients. So not only in Liberia, but mainly in Nigeria, Ghana, Rwanda, and other places.
So you have a wife and a child, right?
Yes.
And they both live outside Liberia.
Yes.
Um,
I have kids. I have 3
oh,
children.
you have? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 3.
Anyway, you are a 40-year-old man. Liberia man.
Yes.
Okay. And you travel abroad extensively.
Yeah.
Now, Liberians here have a certain resentment towards public officials who, they want to govern the country, but then their folks, their family are abroad, whether it's a result of, they're not trusting the health system or the education system. And it brings up the question, like, why should we trust you to be in charge of something that, it doesn't seem like you may properly understand the issues because your kids are not here going to public schools. Or you probably, every time you get a medical checkup is outside of the country. Why should we trust you with our county?
Madam Sirleaf lived out of Liberia extensively. Her children lived out of Liberia. George Weah, currently President Weah, lived outside Liberia. His wife lived outside Liberia. His kids live outside Liberia. He's currently the president. I can go on and on about people that their children and even people who ran for offices, right? It's not about, we should not equate passion and loyalty to Liberia based on where families live per se. My wealth and my dedication has always been Liberia. This is why the headquarters for my company is in Liberia. This is why we create over 300 jobs every year in Liberia. This is why I live here. I've been doing that for over 10 years now. My first time coming back home was in 2007. I went to the States in 1999. And while I left, my heart didn't leave Liberia. I was always here. My heart. I saw a picture yesterday on Facebook. Facebook reminded me 10 years ago, 2009, I was lobbying for Liberia in DC. 10 years ago. I'm like, wow, a more smaller tie, if you will, but a younger tie. But we've been doing this stuff for years, not because of anything, but because of our passion. This is where where I know my life is. Our circumstances, we did go to the US. We left because of the war. Clearly, I was born and raised here. Because of the war, we left. But as soon as things got better, we started to move back here and to invest here, invest our money in Liberia, lobby and advocate for Liberia generally, not only in my county, for Liberia in general. So I do believe that, even our current senator, the incumbent, also, he has the same situation. So we need to look at it about not looking at if your direct family is here, my mom is here, my dad was here, my siblings, many of them. Yeah, I spend most of my time in Nimba and other things. So, and my investments have always been here, and then Africa at large.
So I just wanted to make the point that just because people in the past have been doing something doesn't mean it's okay, or that it's ideal.
But what have they done differently to tell you that they're not loyal to the country? I think that's the loyalty. If we place loyalty based on, the location of one's family, then if we look at Africa in general, we will have serious issues with our African leaders because most of those African.
And we generally have a lot of issues.
Well, because most of those, no, but it was based on circumstances that those leaders' families ended up abroad.
Okay. Okay.
because of the war, and we didn't bring the war here. So if your family is not here and your children are not here, I mean, if you look at many of many of the folks, by the way, who ran for office, their children were educated abroad. Some of their children live abroad,
and the vast majority of the Liberian population resents that.
But Cecil, I don't know about anything. And like, if they resented them, then why are they electing them? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't correlate, Jefferson.
Okay, so
it doesn't correlate. If they resent them, then they shouldn't elect them. Well, we have a certain person who clearly that was the case.
George Weah is an asterisk.
No, Madam Sharif too. Madam Sharif too.
So I have a question for you. Then. I think it's a reasonable question to ask. Why are your family not living here with you?
So there are a number of circumstances that have created that environment, and they're going to be moving actually. We're actually right now in the process of doing that, but it's a private situation. That's why.
Oh, congrats!
Yeah. And my wife and my kids, they're always here. They can be coming back here soon. They're always here.
They're not always here. They're here once in a while.
When I say always here, in terms of
they come back frequently.
frequently.
All right.
Yeah.
You previously ran an NGO, One Liberia, for which you raised funds. We, some have questioned, what you did with those funds. Would you care to explain just in case?
I didn't actually run an NGO. It was a movement.
Okay.
And we didn't raise funds, actually.
You didn't have a GoFundMe?
No, we didn't actually raise funds. And that's people need to know that we wanted to raise funds, but we didn't raise the funds for it. It was a project that we should have done in Ghana's and we didn't raise the funds for it. I put a lot of money into the organization, and we were actually doing projects around, creating a manual and a book to create a situation where we will have everyone speaking to each other for peace building purposes. That we raised some funds for, and I put a lot of my own money into that. So it was not a NGO, if you.
Okay, so the movement took off.
Excuse me. Most of the people that were involved in the movement, we were all busy and doing other things, but we did a lot of work in terms of mentoring young people. We did a lot of work in terms of creating programs for people. We had this thing called the One Liberia Peace Series, where people will have dialogues and around peace. We still have videos and pictures around that. Most of the funds, by the way, from the One Liberia you talked about, came from me, another colleague of mine called Seward Cooper, as well as Domi Cooper, and a few others that were interested. And that's how we funded that. It was not a quote unquote NGO, if you will.
Okay. Just one question for you. What do you think? There's something silly about you that people may not know. Something silly or fun about you that you think.
My wife always is that she says, if people knew Taa really, really well, the people who know Taa, they'll know Taa can be. Taa is really crazy in terms of like fun, crazy. Exactly. Because people see me, right? And they see this, they say, oh, Taa CEO. And my kids, when I love to cook, for example, and I'll cook these elaborate meals, and I will play, Lucky Doobie, I'll play Liberian music, especially CIC, or I'll play this music while I'm crazy dancing, and I love to dance, I love to travel, I love to have fun, and that is the Taa that people don't see often, but people who know.
Now we know.
People who know. The last time I had some friends over that I cooked a few months ago at my house here, and this elaborate meal, and then I make cocktails out of cane juice, and one of my friends he goes, I didn't know you can cook, or I didn't know you can. I said, but because you see me busy, I'm always busy. So, but it's good. It's good for people to see that side of you sometimes. But it's a part of me that a lot of folks don't see.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know you said you keep saying every time I ask you, every time I make a mention of if you win. But basically, my question is, if you don't win, what will you do next?
There's no if in my book. Let me share this with you. And let me share this with you. No, there's a reason why I'm saying this. I've never put my hands into anything that I've not prayed about.
Okay.
I've not fasted about. I always do that. That's my strength and that's my secret that people don't know about, by the way. I have this very intimate relationship with God, and I have to fast and pray every single day. Every single year I fast and pray about 5 or so times. And even today, I called one of my spiritual leaders, have a conversation with him. So I always trust in God in terms of direction. This firm is a testimony of when God says go. My first company I started and sold is another testimony of God saying go. When I did that, my mom said, "You stupid, why are you leaving your job to start a company?" I started a company at 24 years old. I went to the US when I was 20. In 4 years, I started a company and we sold it in 3 years. I was 27, sold the company. And I started this company in 2008. And, I told my wife, I said, God wants me in Africa. God wants me in Africa. And she said, what if it doesn't succeed? What if this? I said, there is no if. There is no if. And there will be no if. And guess what? 10 years later, over 10 years later, we're thriving. Guess what? We're going again for this race. And people are saying if. No, it's a when. And I can show you. Come 2021, you will be hearing Senator Taa Wongbe. Thank you.
I hope that you guys, you must not have done the when you were dealing with Cummings then.
When I'm the person that I'm running, I don't know that I'm in control of this. And trust me, it's not if, it's a when. And by the way, let me tell you this. I'm happy with what we accomplished. We didn't do everything we wanted, and it's God's time. But I can assure you that I believe that we brought something new to the politics of Liberia, and we're going to continue to push that.
All right. Thank you very much
Thank you.
for agreeing to this interview.
Thank you.
All right.